accounting class. This is a quick screencast for the assignment that we're doing for Chapter 7. We only have 3 classes in which to do it, which I think is enough considering how much template I've set up for you. But if you're very unfamiliar with Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, you may need some extra assistance to get it done on time. So I'm going to show you really quickly. We will go through as a class the learning goals, success criteria, and the overview. But what I do want to show you is sheet by sheet the main expectations for when it says things like to set up, use formulas, format cells. I do expect you to do some of these functions. So I've put 2 other tutorials on Google Sheets into our classroom. This one's more specific, just this assignment. So our starting info, you need to populate your company name here and your name that you're going to use with your capital and drawings account. This cell in particular is linked to some of your other sheets down here, so make sure you have your company name written in there. This is not linked. You'll still need to actually populate your drawings and your capital account. As you can see with the transactions, some numbers are provided for you, some you get to create on your own. This is how I'll make sure that everyone's assignment is different and that you know how to follow through the steps for your own numbers. So everyone's should be different. It tells you whether you need to add tax or not, and make sure if you do, you make sure you allocate to proper accounts, meaning HST payable or recoverable. So for example, for the initial investment, start the business, included a cash investment of $10,000, and then you get to determine the vehicle worth and the computer worth of which your investment includes. So to show you in the journal, that first transaction is done for you. I use these as example figures for vehicle value and computer value. And then for me, obviously, it's T Foley Capital. It's the start of a business. There is no pre-existing values, so everyone would have a journal page 1. This is the first shortcut. So here I've inputted the number 35,000 for the credit line. You know your debits and credits have to be equal, so if you're trying to figure out what your credit entry would be, one quick shortcut instead of a formula, if I just highlight these 3 cells right here, the 3 that I want to know how much they add up to, I see down here in the corner it always gives you a sum of what you've highlighted, as long as they can be added together. So in this case it's 35,000, so I input 35,000 here. You do not need to use formulas in the journal. Where you do need to is in your ledger. So at this point, when you do input the entry, the opening entry, you'll need to write it in as per usual. So opening, this would be the date. I think it's March 1st. Bank here is $10,000, but I don't want you to write in the number 10,000. What I want you to do is make sure you pull from your journal entry that number. You do that by equal sign, go back to your journal tab, and click on the cell that has the bank debit. You're going to do that for each of your transactions for everything coming over from the journal to the ledger. You're going to do that because if I by any chance made a mistake, let's just say this is actually supposed to be 1,000, I can go back and make that change here and it will fix it directly into my ledger. I don't need to redo anything. I'm going to undo that though because 10,000 was correct. Next thing I want to show you is for a running balance on your ledger. Some will only have 1 entry, some of these accounts. I think it's only 9 or 10 journal entries in total, so it's a pretty small assignment. For your balance, in the first case, obviously you just have a balance of whatever you just debited, but for any line after that, I want you to input this formula, which is equal sign. You always take the balance above, and you would either add a debit entry or subtract a credit entry. If I put that formula in and I copy this down a few cells, let's just say if my next entry happens to be a $250 credit for bank, and then I have a $2,050 debit, and then a $9,000 credit. I don't know, I'm just making these numbers up. But as you can see, it automatically takes your debit and your credit, meaning if there is no debit, it doesn't add it, but if there is a credit, it will subtract it. So now your running total is happening automatically. So again, the way you do that is select the cell above for your starting balance, add the debit, subtract the credit. If you're talking about an account that has a credit balance, you would obviously do the opposite, where you would add the credit, subtract the debit. So I'll leave that up to you to figure out and to input. And then you just need to determine whether your balance is debit or credit. That was just an example. And again, the way I copied that, you can just copy it down. You can do a Control-C, Control-V all the way down, or you go down to the corner of the cell. If you want to copy a formula all the way down, see when my cursor becomes a plus sign, then I click down and I can drag that as far down as I want to, and it will copy that formula down. So for now, though, I'm going to delete that back out. Oh, no, sorry, never mind. I'm going to put that back in for a moment, just for an illustration purpose, because I want to show you what I would expect you to do next. In trial balance, I have already populated your accounts. And as you can see, it goes right back to the ledger. So it's pulling the names from each of these account titles. In your capital and drawings, they still say insert your name here. So in your ledger, you need to make sure you put your name into your capital and drawings as soon as you do. So for example, if I write here T Foley, enter, it will automatically populate that in my trial balance. Now it says T Foley Capital. Okay. Same thing then, whenever you have your final balance, whether it's a debit or a credit balance, you're going to pull from, so equals my final balance, wherever it may be, in cash or in bank would be bank. And I would do that for each of my accounts. I would pull directly from wherever the final balance is on that ledger. At the bottom, I want you to also formula this, or create a function for this. The function is the sum function. So whenever you want to add up a range of cells, so this is called one cell right here. Whenever you have more than one cell, that's considered a range. And the range generally has an address. This would be C6 to C16 because they're all in the C row or C column, and it's the 6th row to the 16th row. In this case, at the bottom of your trial balance for your total, you want it to sum up everything above in the debit column. So equals sum, open the bracket, and then you can just actually highlight. You could actually write in B6 to B19, or I can just highlight all of these cells that I want included and then hit enter. You could close the bracket, hit enter, or just hit enter. It'll close the bracket for you. I want it to do the same thing in the credit column. So again, there's different ways I can do that, but I could just drag this across and it will adjust accordingly. Right now it's adding up. If I double click, I can see the function and it's adding up everything above. So there you have it for your trial balance. Now your income statement, again, I would now pull, so for fees earned, when you have to pull that number, you want to pull it directly from your trial balance. So I would go to the fees earned credit here and I would put enter. Now whenever I have a fees earned, so let's just say in my ledger I have to put one in so that I have something to pull from. Oops, I went right past it. Let's just say I have a credit balance of $5,480. For trial balance, I want to then pull that. I'm doing this all for a reason. Pull this from the ledger, whatever my final balance would be. And then that automatically gets pulled into the income statement. It's important that we do this, and you can work on formatting the numbers so that they are proper accounting numbers. You'd want Canadian currency. If you don't want the dollar sign, do numbers. So sometimes we just want the dollar sign on the top line, like at the balance sheet. Then you just put this at top, and then every number after that, you would just use the number format. There. Anyhow, these will all populate in. Then you got to total your expenses. So this will equal the sum of these three. Oops, that's fine. These three combined. And then my net income obviously will equal, take my fees earned, subtract my expenses. So that would give me a net income. Now, when you go to your balance sheet, you have to create all the formatting on your own. That's where you might need to watch some of the other videos if you don't know how to format. But some quick, simple tips. You can drag and shrink cell sizes, no problem. If you want to combine more than one cell, you just do this merge function, and that all now became one big cell. Those are helpful for your title lines. You're going to format your own balance sheet and then input from your income statement, or from your income statement and your trial balance, the figures into your balance sheet. The reason all this is important, the reason I'm putting together this video, is because I want you to understand how to link your numbers so that if I change something all the way back here in my journal entry, if I made a mistake here, by simply changing it here, it should follow the change through. If I've imported these numbers straight into my ledger, it will change it automatically in the ledger. If the ledger pulls automatically, or the trial balance pulls automatically from the ledger, the trial balance will autocorrect, as will your following statements. So if you do this as instructed, your entire workbook should work seamlessly with itself, and you don't have to necessarily go back and try to find as many errors, or you're less likely to even make the errors because you're pulling straight from previous cells. Okay, so that is part of the important component of this assignment, is to make sure, back to these learning goals that we're going to go back to, or that we're going to go over in class, but utilizing formulas, cell references, functions, and basic understanding of spreadsheet tools and functions. This to me is really important to you, as important to me, as I mentioned to you in class, more important than sitting on specific software that could change, accounting software. Spreadsheet software, the tools that you'll utilize in here will be useful in other courses, but also if you actually went into accounting, or almost any aspect of business. In marketing, I probably spent at least 60% of my day in Microsoft Excel. So most jobs in business can be very analytical. And this really helps. It's a useful tool for that. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Good luck.